is Pamela Anson, and I am the Director of Brand Outreach at Better Business Bureau, serving Greater Cleveland. Thank you for joining us this morning, and we really appreciate you hopping on these webinars every month. We really want to add value to your BBB accreditation. Today we have Mike DePaulo. He is the Executive Recruiter for All Pro Recruiting. Mike has grown in talent and acquisition since 2012. He encompasses all the qualities and characteristics that are appreciated by both clients and candidates. Mike is a graduate of Case Western Reserve University with a BS in Finance, where he excelled as a student athlete, playing 4 years of football as a defensive back. Mike is a Six Sigma belt and utilizes his full tool belt while solving client issues, interacting with candidates, and providing unique insight into the industry. Prior to joining the recruiting industry, Mike led teams and projects with CVS that increased the company's overall value within their stores. He remains involved with CWRU as a LSS project coordinator and is also a key member of APICS. Mike lives with his wife Melissa, daughter Juliana, and son Philip. He is a Cleveland sports aficionado and enjoys taking his family on new adventures. Oh, thank you, Mike, for joining us today, and we are really excited to learn about recruiting.
Awesome, thanks for having me. I'm going to flip over to the screen share.
And just a little reminder before Mike starts, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box, and we go over them.
Okay. Can you see everything?
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, thanks for everyone for joining. Again, my name is Mike DePaulo. I actually presented this late last year to SHRM, so Society of Human Resource Management group, and it seemed to went over pretty good, but it's recruiting in 2020 in my eyes now into the future. I really have a passion for recruiting. I also have a Lean Six Sigma black belt, which is it's like process optimization. It's bringing statistics and process flows to optimize communication and just I want to say processes in different projects. So when I was at CVS and Walgreens, I kind of understood that I had a really good claim to fame of kind of flipping inventory systems and raising customer service scores and things like that. But a lot of it was putting processes together. So I like working with people and putting processes, because I think a lot of times what happens, there's people that push and there's people that pull in the company, and you don't really get anywhere, but everyone's trying real hard. So I think it's always better to work smarter than harder. So in this presentation, I share a lot of different best practices. I'll open things up to questions, going forward. But to me, it's about, controlling the controllables, and recruiting is very difficult, but I think these things should help your business or your process. So I hope you guys enjoy. So one of the things that we'll kind of cover is I do a little exercise called chance versus skill, just to kind of set the table. But in my eyes, the three things that I kind of cover is flexibility and agility, how it will win out. I have a thing called one voice, 1+1 team equals success. And then also about how to screen in talent versus screening out talent. About a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year, when the pandemic hit, things kind of slowed down in the recruiting world. I took the opportunity to get a certificate from the University of Penn, and it focused on people and analytics. I thought it was really, really interesting. Is basically kind of talking a lot about how IT will kind of mend the gap in the talent war, so to speak. So different tools and stuff. So it was very, very interesting. And one of the things that they brought out was this concept of chance for skill. So I tweaked it because it's, because of the presentation time, I kind of did a mini version of it, of chance for skill. And they used the NFL draft as a kind of an example of this kind of parameter, because the NFL draft is interesting because Out of all the pro sports, there's like regulations and there's lots of things with like salary cap and rules. Um, um, Unlike basketball or baseball, where it's a little bit more like a level playing field. So it was kind of interesting. It's similar to our world of recruiting, where um, there's interviews and there's like I want to say screening sessions and things like that. So it does kind of make sense a little bit. I thought it was kind of interesting. So they kind of broke down the success of these teams, and the biggest thing in pro sports is winning. So, but basically, there's a sample size from I think it's 2000. Oh, say 1999 to 2009. So a 10-year sample size of like the two important criteria. So wins are the absolute most important things that people are looking at, and then there's individual efforts, so player Pro Bowl selections. So basically, they were comparing wins and like the elite talent. And when you broke it down, it was kind of interesting that like just under, I think it's about 68.7% of the teams fell within 8 to 6 wins in that 10-year period. You had outliers, so you had some teams averaging 10 to 12 to 10 wins, like the Colts, Patriots, Steelers. And then you had our beloved Browns, who were in the 6%. The Browns and Lions were averaging, less than 6 wins in that 10-year period. Um, but one of the things that was kind of interesting is, the Pro Bowl talent was kind of similar. The variance between Pro Bowl players and so elite talents and the teams that win were the best teams that were averaging 12 to 10 wins, averaged four, Pro Bowlers. The median teams averaged three, and then the below average teams averaged one. So it really wasn't a difference of like elite players. It was more a difference of in that win. So I wanted to like dig deeper on why that is, and I took it to another level by kind of just looking at the playoffs and everything like that. Was um, it's 65% of the teams made it to the divisional round. 40% of the teams in the league made it to the Super Bowl in that 10-year period. 25% of the teams actually won the Super Bowl, and two out of those teams won. So the Steelers and the Patriots, they won 5 out of the 10 Super Bowls during that year. So it, even though there is parity, there are some teams that just do it a little bit better, and I think a lot of that has to do with just organization, collaboration, some of like the best practices that I want to share with you guys today. So um, again, it's very competitive. Last year, I think everyone had some hardships. So some companies really cut to the bone when they did cut, or cash flow made people cut. So there's a lot of people that are currently doing 2 or 3 jobs at their job to absorb I want to say the workload. So people are always craving to be in the right environment and stuff like that. And it's talent is important, but you can kind of foster and harness your talent by doing some I want to say uh, engagement with your team. So it's like you don't have enough talent to win on talent alone. Elite organizations make stars out of their role players, and that's I think some of the key to some of this, um, along with like getting the right people. Um, I really believe one of the best things you could do in recruitment is just be transparent of who you are, your resources. That's super important. You want to have the right narrative for the right person. So you can't sell somebody into the job. Every company and every person has a unique narrative to their background, and it's kind of like like I said, it's kind of like picking a spouse. it's sometimes things are, if there are deal breakers, you should know about that before you engage in, the relationship. Um, so we'll go over some things on how to, make your narrative accurate and authentic, but also, again, kind of controlling the controllables in the recruiting process. So chance for skilled, I'm a positive person, so I say like have a driver's seat mentality. I really believe that, chance favors a prepared mind. um, some best practices that I've kind of seen with companies over the last 10 years is having a transparent vision. It is in words, but it's also based on actions, not intentions. So having good self-realization of the strengths and weaknesses of your company is super important when recruiting, sharing your message. Again, those deal breakers will come to a head at some point. So it is good to, share an accurate description of your company. Um, Manage expectations. So again, part of that transparency is, what are the resources? What are the constraints? What's a plan of support? I think at the end of the day, when you recruit and you bring in somebody, everybody should be in agreement of, um, the candidate should, hey, candidate, we expect you to do X, Y, Z and have ownership in these roles because we think, you're really good at these things. We understand that these things are, we understand, this part of the job, XYZ, is something where we plan to support you with mentorship or somebody in the department or upper level management, and develop a support plan on things that are a little bit easier with benchmarks. So, um, process focus, knowing one's role and how to star in it. I think um, it's really important that we define what success looks like in the role and how people need to get into it, so everyone's on the same page. Sometimes we brush over the details, and the details are probably the most important things of having success. So kind of having an open communication line of, with candidate and employer. Track value added activities. It's not just about managing the numbers, but when you have good processes, the processes manage the number. So in Lean Six Sigma, we're kind of taught that um, the lean aspect is kind of getting rid of the fat, or they call it muta. That if it's not adding value in your process, you shouldn't be doing it. So there's a lot of times in KPIs or metrics or benchmarks that we can kind of manipulate the number, and you're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. But if you have the ability to have good processes, you have a skinnier variance, which means that you're more likely to kind of, your output is going to fall within acceptable measures. So tracking that value added activities, understanding the process so that you could set yourself and set your employees up for success is really the key to people. And it does bring like an engaged workforce. Some of the things that's really, really important is open communication between your team. Your teammates and your workers are very, very smart. They really understand pitfalls and things that are going on in the business. If you create an engaged environment where people can kind of stop or avoid mistakes before they happen, the cost saving is huge. So these types of practices also motivate employees. It creates a we versus me mentality, and it gets people to have a little bit more ownership in the company and accountability in the company because they feel like they're a part of the performance and the success. Um, Number six, open communications, embracing failure, and learn how to grow. Diversity without inclusion, and suffocates diversity. Diversity is a big topic. I'm taking some classes on that as well. And I think it's interesting because there's companies that put labels on things. So there are diverse companies out there, but they're still failing to include people. And that's why I say diversity without inclusion suffocates diversity. Um, so it is important to be diverse, but if we're not encouraging people to speak and have an open venue to talk and to communicate, we're not really as diverse as we think we are. Because there are sometimes, if it is diverse, but there's a minority that's not open freely to share their ideas or not comfortable, they're less likely to talk. So confidence is kind of a really big thing, that in openness and acceptance of new ideas and things like that um, are really important. Um, Number 7, invest in the employees, training, mentorship, inclusive culture, resources. Um, I think that the best way to attract and to retain employees is to have, great options for people to be challenged and grow their skill set and feel like they're welcomed. And then number 8, breed leaders, a culture of accountability, pride, and community. Um, yeah, you know, a lot of success is, when people feel the team has success when people take the mindset of, being a star within each other's role. So you can be, I want to say, a leader without being a manager or a supervisor, because you really take on the pride of your role and stuff like that. And at the end of the presentation, I'll have some links that you're free to share or review, that there's just different resources and places that I've kind of got some of these concepts where I think there's consultants or companies that do good jobs of this type of stuff that you'll be free to kind of look at as well. Um, so, with COVID, we kind of really understood this, but the only constant in life is change. In order to succeed, you must embrace this fact. I think we could all agree to that. I still don't think we're in the new normal yet. So it is kind of interesting to see where that shakes out. But we've been through a lot, and if we can get through this, we can kind of get through anything. Um, but when I say flexibility and agility wins out, it's important not just to build a culture within your work, but I say build an ecosystem, because ecosystems kind of adapt when things change within the ecosystem. It kind of balances out in a way. So promote an innovation, a culture of innovation, embrace change. You know, that's the best way to, I think, to um, um, kind of have more of an agile type of business, because things do change. There's lots of movements, and there's lots of things that are always kind of affecting our business or our employees. So promoting an innovative culture, innovation within culture, really helps be ahead of the curve, but also not less reactive. The other thing is, number 2, link opportunities with personal autonomy. Reward personal betterment. Um, you know, you have to be the best version of yourself to get the best work out of you, of your coworkers. So we want, the theory is, if we can get people to feel like and perform at their best level, that brings everyone else up a little bit in the organization. Um, Create cross um, organizational networks, because of technology, and we've experienced some of it now because of COVID. We're more connected than ever. You can do work from home. There's a lot of different technology that helps us be connected to clients, suppliers, customers. So so it's a good thing, but we want to make sure that um, that we're using these tools correctly, and that we have the ability to separate from work when it's time to separate from work, and refresh, but also make sure that we're disciplined enough to kind of do the things that we need to do when we need to do it. Um, Another concept is encourage of diversity of thought. Um, I think it's very interesting time in that again there's a Mark Twain quote that I think is kind of interesting and pertains to this, but Mark Twain said once, travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. Many of the people need it sorely of these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one's little corner of the earth in one's life. And basically is the more the easier we kind of accept them when they're not as scary. So there is a lot of bias, unconscious and conscious bias that goes on to recruiting and hiring. But if we can kind of break through those barriers, sometimes we can get candidates that we never would have thought of are a good fit or a good complementary addition to our communities and in our work or our workplace. Number 5, focus on goal-based thinking. I'm big on SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-oriented goals. You should be able to bring down, I would think, um, benchmarks and time matrices to make these goals. But when you do that, it kind of keeps you a little bit more accountable. You get other people involved in it, and they can help you stay on track. So goal-based thinking is something that keeps you, I think, agile and flexible when you're building this ecosystem. And then really, really important is to embrace failures. If you think about the most successful people in the world, we only see the things that come out, but they probably failed more than others. So um, there's a Lean Six Sigma master black belt that I learned under, I think really high of, but he does a lot of work. He does visualization management where, if you're in a manufacturing firm or a manufacturing company, like you'll have red, yellow, or green on productivity. And so what he always says is like, you embrace the red, you learn from it, you get to the root cause, and you fix it to the core because because that's a problem. It's red, it's staring you in the face. You don't repeat it, and then you actually fix it. And when you fix it correctly, you never have to worry about it again. So he says when you embrace the red, you eliminate the yellow. So it's fairly common to see in organizations that he works in that it's usually red or green in his stuff. And then once it turns green, it usually stays green. So that's what's important. We don't want to shame people, or we don't want to have people want to hide problems in the business, because that's how little problems become to big problems. Like the Wells Fargo kind of fiasco a few years back. Some people probably knew about the problems, but instead of, they were scared, and because something wasn't going right, it wasn't reported. So a little problem became, a huge kind of news story. One team plus one voice equals success. I kind of got some of this from, actually, I had a couple buddies that I played high school with play for the New England Patriots. So, and this is kind of like a Bill Belichick kind of concept, which I thought was kind of interesting. I'm a diehard Browns fan, but I do tip my cap to the old Browns coach Bill Belichick from time to time. But um, creating a foundation of alignment and accountability is something that's he calls it the one voice mantra, where I think it's interesting that the New England Patriots I think they average like 12 positional coaches within the team, and the league average is like 25, 26 coaches on the team. And one of the reasons is like sometimes, you know, the message from the leaders get watered down when people don't, like the telephone game. If people keep on telling you the same thing, in different ways, sometimes it loses the meaning. So they really focus on the accountability at the players, or people taking accountability and ownership of their roles. So from the people that are in the equipment room to marketing to the players themselves. So the concept is kind of having alignment of the stakeholders of the process. So um, they've actually had a lot of success in the NFL. So that's why I think it's kind of interesting of creating that type of you know understanding the team concept, understanding the message, and then it usually leads to success. Um, so one of the things that it has, like when you want accountability and ownership, you have to have processes that create transparency for the people involved. Um, it helps to manage expectations of people, and it starts with the hiring process. So if you can really lay out the transparency and and manage expectations of the people that you're hiring, and share your authentic narrative, for me, I see that you have a better chance of breeding leaders, breeding accountable people, creating ownership within engagement within your roles. So work's never going to be perfect. We all know that, um, but we got to embrace the failures. We have to embrace the non-perfect parts of it, and have a positive mindset of fixing those things. So um, I think it's essential to have, I want to say, success by this like mantra, so to speak. Um, Talent screening in and not screening out. And the acronym TOM, team over me. Um, Sometimes when I work with clients, there's a hiring team. So it's kind of a democratic system where people are, you know, um, all putting their information in to see if it's the right fit. But I encourage people to, put aside ego, agree what's best fit for the team and the organization. We don't want to hire someone that just makes our personal job easier. We want to hire someone that is going to be a good fit from the start, skill wise, and I want to say um, for the company business and stuff. So you want to avoid the electoral vote syndrome. There may be someone that has a higher title on the board. Um, you know, Try to really understand what the needs are. So it requires a lot of emotional intelligence and low ego to do this, but having good checks and balances within these hiring teams can kind of help you get the right person for the right reasons. Um, Talent screening, not screening out. I see critical hires are more important than ever as we're forced to do more with less. Um, Even when the economy was great, I think we were still, companies were looking for specific skills and specific people. And I always say it's a good candidates market, no matter what time it is. If you can really do something that's, valuable to a company, skill wise, or whatever, you'll have ability to be employed. So some of the, I think, good concept is, we want to eliminate bias that leads to our actions. The best interviews get the job, not the best candidate, unfortunately. So create safeguards in your structures to get a great hire. Forecast based on past experience and relevant to your specific narrative is important. Sometimes complementary hires to the team will weigh out um, uh, more important than other aspects of the job. So it's really good to have a holistic view and collaborate on what are the, I want to say, the needs for the team are, to win or be the best highly functioning team that could be. So there's a difference between great candidate and great hires. Like great candidates are, they have the employer's basic wants, skills, experience, the academics, some of the competencies, behaviors, but again, it's all about performance and actions versus, I want to say, actions versus words. So I really think questions that take deeper into context of the achieved results, the how people exceed expectations in their role, how they take on responsibilities, not having excuses, and being proactive of problem solving and adding value to the people around them, um, having accountability and ownership in their roles. Those are the things that now they are going to have qualities of great candidates, but you have to dig deeper because again, sometimes people are, I'm at the luxury that I can talk to people. That's my job, is to really learn about candidates. I believe it's the right job for the right person. So I could take the time to talk to people more than companies can. Um, but for me, I think it's important that um, that sometimes these great interviews are the ones getting the jobs because they are just a little bit more polished and they can talk and they're not as nervous, but they might have more experience interviewing. So yeah, it is, you want to find ways to kind of screen in talent so you can have these deeper conversations to see if they're the right fit or not. As far as recruiting now, the big thing in 2020 and carrying over 2021 is, like I call it, the three big E's: equality, empathy, earnings. Um, you know, talent management is difficult at any time, but I think because of COVID, because of people being sick, or these mass changes that were going on, that um, you know, we all have opened our eyes a little bit. So these types of these three E's are never really going away, but I think they're at the forefront of being, super important when candidates are considering an employer. Equality. There's lots of different um, things that are now being brought up into our lives and more of a spotlight onto things because of social media and because of different movements. So, those types of things are really important um, if you have a culture or an ecosystem that really provides these things. You need to let people know about it, because being welcomed and being comfortable within your workplace is super important right now. That could add to your narrative if that's a specific thing. And more importantly, it's the right thing to do. We are kind of gatekeepers of our company, so we are protective to little things, but because we want to make sure the companies have good people coming in, but we also have responsibility to do the right things for the right reasons. I thought this was a real cool quote that I kind of found when I was doing this, but so this was a Nobel Prize winner, I think a physicist, if I'm not mistaken, but Friedrich, he said, there's all the difference in the world between treating people equally and attempting to make them equal. And I think that's something that we should, pertains to the last slide. Empathy, emotional intelligence, heightened state of emotions, eliminating bias, familiarity, and connectivity. Um, it's again back to the Mark Twain quote. When we have a little bit more empathy and sympathy and understanding of the people that we're working with, it's easier for us to not be scared or guarded, in our decision making. So we really want to put checks and balance systems to eliminate bias and screen in talent versus screen out talent. Um, that's something that, there are no perfect people. I've never met a perfect person in the world. So we need these types of safeguards to help us make the right choices for our businesses and for our company. Earnings, of course, are super, whatever you want to, if it's company or earnings, I wrote down profits, cash flow, EBITDA, but even personal earnings for compensation for candidates. At the end of the day, companies are going to do what's best for themselves. We had to cut some people. It was very hard because of COVID, and the government stepped up with different programs to cushion the blow. But if we're not profitable, nobody's working. So at the end of the day, it is something about productivity and making money and outperforming your role. We all get paid um, a snippet of what the value we bring into our work. So it is important that people understand that it's not a hobby, it's not a charity. It's people are here to bring in earnings so that we can all have benefits and get paid and continue the cycle. I got this. This was real good. So into the future, real good article from. I found it on LinkedIn. One of the writers there, but there's 7 things. I'll go over them briefly. I folded 1, 4, 5, and 6 because I thought those were a little bit more stronger than the other ones. But some of the things that recruiting will become even more important than it is now today. So doing more with less, being adaptive to systems and IT will be important. I think it's just, the people that we have represent and are going to be the X factor of, who succeeds and who doesn't succeed. So I thought that was important. Number 2, you'll have to get used to changing hiring plans, because of different ways now that we can, meet people or get our brand out or whatever. There's a lot of change going on. Some places we're have to go more remote because it's not so much that the companies won't let people in. It's more so that people have kids in school that they can't leave. It's kind of a direct. So if you have the ability to think outside the box or get parts of your job done and being flexible, it opens the candidate pool immensely to get the right person that can knock out that task and or key attribute of work. So thinking outside the box will be very helpful. So number 3, recruiters will bring more business strategy. Our job, internal or even recruiting consultants like myself, is to kind of take an outside look in to see if there's other ways to kind of bring in different strategies to help you not only bring in the right people, but create pipelines of talent. Number 4, it'll be easier to track recruiting activity, but you'll care more about calculating business impact. Again, it's going to be about the analytics in the business unit, what's profitability and, the impact and the return on investment of these types of positions within the company. Perfect world scenario, agile companies will figure out how to get their people in the right positions to impact the business. But also when people are out producing different parts of it, you can kind of give them different tasks and then cross-train other people so that you have an ecosystem of training and accountability and teamwork and things like that. Number 5, better tools and teach will be key to boosting your team's performance. So, I think places that invest in their employees will again help people stay in their roles, but also perform at top level within their roles. Number 6, engaging passive talent, analyzing data, and advertising business leaders is essential. A lot of what I do is share the narrative. I find passive talent that aren't responding to jobs, or they might not be aware of the brand name of a company that's right in their backyard and has a great story to share. So again, with life and everything going on, a lot of our workers or employees or the candidates that we wanted, their fathers, their mothers, their husbands, their wives, they're taking care of mom or dad, so they're good daughters or sons. So it's hard to work and balance all these things that they might be content at their job, but this could be a job opening that they don't. So finding ways to engage passive talent, so people that aren't looking and searching for jobs is kind of really important. And then number 7, your recruiting teams will be more than non-recruiting specialists. So getting other people's perspectives in the recruiting process. I think the best way to recruit is to have people that love their employer and brag about their employer and get their friends or people that they think highly of to join the firm. So that speaks volumes when you have that type of ecosystem. Future recruiting, I said true transparency, correlation versus outliers. So there's going to be a lot of people analytics that will be measuring different aspects on people related issues. If you think about where we're at, 10 years ago till now, and then now till in 10 years, there will be IoT and IIoT and automation and blockchain and 3D printing and 5G networks. We got a lot of stuff that will be hitting us in the future here. So people analytics will probably be a portion of that. Again, in any process, it's the inputs versus the out will get you good outputs. So good processes and understanding what goes into the numbers and process is really, really important. But we're going to be measuring everything in the future, like it or not. So it'll be an interesting time of how this kind of impacts recruiting. Future recruiting, organizational network analysis. You'll be able to do data-driven approaches by understanding how people work with each other, mapping those connections, evaluating it, improving it, optimizing these types of connections to kind of understand like what we're spending our time on, and having the right people do the right type of valued work. Intervening with collaboration and networks will help reduce employee overload. It'll help improve resiliency of global teams, reducing collaboration of inefficiencies, eliminate silos, and enhancing career paths. So again, this is kind of like work taking on and utilizing IT systems to have larger gains from people and more challenging stuff. But you can have again better work efficiency and better output because of leveraging these types of tools and working together and collaborating within the business. So this next slide here are just key inspirations that I kind of let you know about. So yeah, feel free to look at these. This PowerPoint will be shared, but these are kind of are like an appendix of things that I thought that led to some of the content. There's a couple different things here. So I'll open it up to questions, and I'll do the best I can with a lot of time. I'll be available to talk or to follow up on things as needed, and Pamela will share my info with everyone.
Yeah, I'd be definitely happy to share any info. If you have any questions, you can always email me after the presentation today. So we appreciate you joining us today, and thank you so much. I know recruiting and hiring is changing a lot this year, but this is great information.
Absolutely, it was a pleasure, and good luck with everyone's businesses. And again, it'll be a fun time. There's a lot of good times ahead of all of us.
Great. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and I hope you all have a great day.